Hello, everybody, and welcome to Atheist Sunday School, your one-stop shop for everything Atheist Sunday and school. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Today we are covering Lamentations, chapters 1 through 5, with Landon Noll.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on your time zone and latitude in relationship to helium. Because today is an important day for helium, because a lot of Christians go along and say he is risen, and generally on planet Earth, helium has a buoyancy where it'll rise. So therefore, I am requesting that a T-shirt like this good one here. I'll show you the T-shirt that I have on here.
It's a fantastic one. That's
a
wonderful.
Fantastic T-shirt. I'm requesting that you have a because it's an old canard, maybe for me, where you have a helium balloon, and inside the helium balloon you have the chemical element symbol for helium, and you say, and so it says he is risen, right? So it would be a balloon, a balloon,
that's
and the
pretty
chemical
good.
symbol he and is risen, and that would be a wonderful T-shirt that you could put on your list, because helium has risen. It's going up in a balloon.
That's pretty good.
We have it written down.
We do. We have it written down.
Yes. Well, as today is Easter.
Yeah. Something interesting about the Book of Lamentations is that it's read a lot on Good Friday.
Well,
which was on Friday. But you know what? It's close enough to Easter. You know, they're very closely related, right? Because he died on one and then he came back on the other, right?
Zombified Vocation Day, but yes.
Yeah. But we also have the T-shirt giveaway this week.
T-shirt giveaway.
The spinny wheelie.
The spinny wheelie. All right, Chris.
So we have more people on instead of just being
Excellent.
either Landon or Ellis.
Yeah.
It is
thank you,
Landon,
Michael and Sammy and Carlos and Ellis, for competing with me for the T-shirt. May you win many T-shirts.
hopefully.
Yeah, it was pretty 50-50 with you and Ellis there for a while, but now the chances have changed.
You got to tell me to spinny
wheelie, Chris. Spinny wheelie. All right, so let's see what it lands on.
Michael barely.
Michael,
got
you
it.
win a
Michael.
shirt.
Wow, it wasn't Landon.
It wasn't Landon. I was trying it out earlier just to make sure.
It wasn't biased.
Oh,
But it was biased. It was
I'll
biased
get to
towards
win.
Ellis, though.
Oh, it was biased towards
Wow.
Alex.
once in a while, but yeah. But anyway, so congratulations, Michael. There's a lot of really cool T-shirts there. Plus, maybe even they will make the "He is Risen" T-shirt.
Yes,
That
eventually.
is yes.
We wrote it
an
down.
eventual shirt.
Yeah, if you want to hold off until that comes out, then I don't know how long you'll be holding off for.
I mean it's up to you. We'll send you a different shirt anyway.
T-shirts there.
Yeah.
I like the Behold one with the Behold, the bee and the hold thing. That's one of my favorites.
Well,
Which, by the way, I don't know if Lamentations is one of these beholding.
It might not be a beholdathon. No.
I am not sure if it is. Although it is 5 poems, 5 long poems, and many of them are acrostics.
one of them's kind of short.
Shorter than the others, yes.
Who gets to read that?
Well, here's how it actually works.
Lawrence.
One of them is actually longer than the others.
Yeah.
Is the thing.
Who gets to read that?
Is that on me? Is that chapter 3?
Well, I get to read chapter 3.
Oh, yeah, he's doing chapter 3. That's right.
Oh, it's not Reuben. All right.
Yeah, so all of these are 22 verses except for chapter 3, which is 66 verses.
Yes.
Hey, there you go. Which kind of reminds us that we have a drive for there with an extra 6. So
Oh yeah,
Yes.
the 666 drive, where once we hit $666 in donations, we will be getting a thetan meter and seeing who the most clear is.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Jason, I was looking forward to fighting that out organically.
Okay, well, that's in the New King James, but we have the real King James
of
right
course,
here.
the real one, yeah.
Hopefully, there's more beholds in the original.
Although, we were just talking about the verse length. Aside from the fact that we each get the same amount of verses. No, actually, no, you don't. Sorry.
Except for Landon.
Yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, we get the same amount of verses. We each get 44. He gets 66. Right. I'm bad. Let's talk about why it's so strange. Let's talk about the book a little bit. And Landon,
Well, thank you,
coming in clutch
Landon.
with the $49.99. Now I got to write that down. And I did.
It's an odd. By the way, it's an odd thing. I was hoping to do 66, but the interface that I have on this iPad only lets me set amounts, and it doesn't let me say anything pithy. So
What? That's weird.
Go
That's
ahead
so
and
strange.
say what were you gonna say?
Yeah, say something.
Let's your $50.
well, I was going to say, who is the most thetaned Ed?
Oh, that's clearly Lawrence. That's such an obvious.
Well, I'm definitely not going to be clear. Let's
Yeah, you're the
let's be
most-
clear that I
you're-
will not be clear.
He'll have the most thetans.
You'll
though.
be
Yeah.
the most thetaned.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
suppose.
I think that's how it works.
Right, you've got the most ancient aliens telling you with their souls in your body
Something-
what you were supposed to do.
Something
and
along
why-
those
yeah.
lines. Not too
Hopefully
far
other
off.
people will follow the example, and we'll add on, and so we get this drive going. Which, by the way, do you have any idea about the sum total of?
Oh, yes. Well, with that donation, we're at about 400.
So we're getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very close.
Yeah. In fact, almost exactly
We're
400.
probably going to have to skip the alchemy drive still again, and then just do the Thetan drive,
Well,
and
that
we'll
would
make
be
up a new thing.
certainly less dangerous.
Yeah, we need to
No
try to figure
boiling
out something
mercury
else
for
that
6
still.
months.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's like an impossible
Unless
goal.
Landon knows a good way to boil mercury for 6 months.
Landon.
Well, actually, I
Oh
I do, but it ended up. It wasn't me. It was one of my colleagues that ended up letting the nitrogen flask go dry. There are things called diffusion pumps, and diffusion pumps basically have this fountain of stuff that comes up in the vacuum chamber, and fog rains down. Right, so you basically have this like a percolator, like a coffee hot percolator, and that brings down gas in the system and causes it to basically pull a very, very hard vacuum, much more you can do with a mechanical pump. And the best diffusion pumps are mercury, because the mercury is very heavy. It is really good at bringing down, as long as you don't let the pool of mercury that's boiling boil over. If you let because you have a liquid pool of boiling mercury surrounded by liquid nitrogen, and if you let the liquid nitrogen go dry, then the mercury boils and explodes and showers, liter plus of hot mercury vapor all over the lab, contaminating it for many months.
It's terrifying.
oh, man.
Don't boil mercury at home. Let me just put it that way.
We were never going to do that.
I think there's other ways to do alchemy. I mean, because there was a bunch of woo that was around stuff where we didn't even do, where you were almost like you were praying over material to turn it into stuff.
Oh,
and so
yeah.
maybe
If there's
alchemic way of doing things without actually doing chemistry.
If there's a wooey way, that'd be, fun to try.
Then we can fail again.
Well, a lot of the wooey ways involve like purifying your body for 6 months and then like peeing in a jar. And
I mean, I'll pee in a jar.
okay,
We
well,
asked for that. Please don't do that.
I don't know if.
By the way,
you've
someone said
purified
they got
enough.
they got their T-shirt in the mail the other day.
Yes,
So
Niall
that's fantastic.
Gist. I was going to say congrats on that.
I'm
Which one did you get?
Well, I don't know if, I don't know if that was a shirt. Wait, that wouldn't have been a shirt we sent.
they'd have to
Teespring.
buy it.
Yeah, I suppose. So,
Yeah, so-
actually went out of the way and bought a shirt. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, wear it around
Thank you.
town. Tell everyone you meet, everyone you don't meet.
Thanks.
All right, let's talk about
well,
Lamentations, guys.
yeah. So what about Lamentations? So we moved away from Jeremiah.
Well, not
where he's
quite.
just
Not
kinda,
quite.
sort of. I mean, the book of Jeremiah.
Yeah.
Well, before we,
So why is it the Lamentation of Jeremiah? Because Jeremiah was pretty lamentable.
There's a reason that this book is often ascribed to Jeremiah. So let's talk about the authorship a little bit, what the book is about.
Before we do that,
yeah.
I had the King James version of the Bible.
I have the English Standard Version of the Bible.
What Bible do you have, Landon?
And I have the New American Standard Bible, a reference edition. See, it's reference edition, A.J. Holdman Company, division of the Lipcott Company, and it probably is copyright God. The copyright the Lockman Foundation, who probably bought the copyrights from God. I'm
At a reasonable price.
So
sure.
we should see Jesus coming forward and giving us a DCMA takedown for.
We'll see.
We'll see. We also have the Hebrew Bible, a translation with commentary by Robert Alter.
We have Erdman's commentary on the Bible. We also have the New Interpreter's Bible Old Testament Survey, which we will be using today.
And on the side, we've got the New King James and the Holy Scriptures according to some Jews in 1913.
So
there we go.
When you go to the so-called New Testament, will you say you have a Bible according to some Greeks?
Potentially. No, not exactly. I don't know if
we get a Septuagint.
Yeah, we could get a Septuagint. That is on the wish list, actually. It is on the wish list.
Put it on the wish list.
Yeah, it is on there. A Greek Septuagint. And let's see what else. I have Greek New Testament textual commentaries as well. So if we need, is a part of a verse original or not, they have already, looked at all the Greek manuscripts and they have come to a certain conclusion about the likelihood of a certain reading being original. And the way they do that is through basically grading it. Like they give it a grade, like it gets an A or a B or a C, and that's their confidence level in that reading.
And more importantly, we will be getting Helena P. Blavatsky's New Testament commentaries.
Yeah, we're just gonna have a little bit of that just for. I forgot to change the quote of the day. That's what I forgot to do. Yeah,
oh
I don't know.
God,
I mean, you
get
could
the same quote as last.
Yeah, it's
day.
the same quote as the last time. I forgot to change the quote of the day.
It's Friday's quote or something. My bad.
So that is something I forgot to do.
Maybe
whatever.
We didn't see that one. No, we did.
Yeah, definitely saw it. All right, let's talk about Lamentations now. Finally, the real crux of the issues here. So, what the book is, of course, mentioned that it's a bunch of poems, and one is much longer than the others. And because of the way the poems are written, they're very lamenty, surprisingly, right? Makes perfect sense. So, because it was often placed right next to Jeremiah, a lot of people.
And what were they lamenting?
Oh, well, the thing is, it could be a variety of things. But traditionally, it's ascribed to like the exile, basically. Because it would make sense. It would make sense, but it would also make sense in any kind of position of destruction or war. Any time that the people are being oppressed, this could fit in. So I'm going to talk about all that, going to cover all this. Now, the theological positions they're around. They're certainly around. They share similarities to Jeremiah, but not completely. In fact, some of the things listed would suggest that Jeremiah's prophecies were wrong. So it wasn't.
How could that be? How could that be? That makes no sense.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure it out, Landon. I'm not quite sure. So let's talk a little bit about these 5 poems. So they're 5 distinct poems. Most of them are acrostics. In chapter 3, there are 66 verses, three to each
of the letters in turn. So that is an acrostic, but not in the same way. It's like a triple acrostic.
Is it a triptych acrostic?
I suppose. In chapter 5, however, there is no planned sequence to the initial letters of the verses, but there are just 22 verses in the poem all the same. So it's still it's I don't know. That one's a weird one, but they're all kind of off. Now there have been some suggestions about why it's set up that way, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit after I talk about the historical setting and the authorship, of course. Now, we hit on it a little bit. It certainly wasn't Jeremiah, but you could see why somebody would attribute this to Jeremiah. So though the realities of life in a conquered city are graphically described, there's no reason to think that the poet was necessarily a member of the Jerusalem community of that time and was not, for example, a poet of a much later age, imaginatively reconstructing the situation of exilic Jerusalem as a vehicle for theological reflection. The authorship of Lamentations has traditionally been ascribed to Jeremiah, probably on the ground of the reference in Second Chronicles 35:25 to a lament on the death of King Josiah spoken by Jeremiah. But there is no reference in Lamentations to Josiah, and no reason, therefore, to connect the book with Jeremiah. In English Bibles, it is placed after the prophecy of Jeremiah, but in Hebrew Bibles, with the writings. So it's placed differently there.
Where is it placed again?
It's placed with the writings in the Hebrew Bible.
Yeah,
If it was placed with Jeremiah, then it would be placed with the prophets. So it's separated into 3 parts. The Tanakh, that is. So you have the Torah, the Ketuvim, and the Eruvim, right? I think that's it.
It starts with an N.
Oh, the Nevi'im, sorry.
Yeah.
My bad. So the Nevi'im, Ketuvim, and the Torah. Those are the 3 parts of the Tanakh, and they are obviously the Torah, the law, and then they have writings and prophets, and this one often is placed with prophets because the connection with Jeremiah, but can also be placed with writings because it's not Jeremiah, but you can place it with writings either way. So onto the historical setting. Like I said, it could very easily be placed to the exile, to the Babylonian exile, that is. But of course, that's not necessarily the case because a lot of these are kind of vague destruction kind of things. So of course, traditionally ascribed to that time period. So Ian Provan, however, disputed the traditional dating and location of the book. He claims that there is insufficient evidence to tie the book firmly to this or any other precise historical period. And he kind of points out that's like this could be used at any time, really. That's mainly his argument. And we did hit on the thematic links between Jeremiah, but how it's certainly not written by him because it would make some of his prophecies wrong, which we will get into.
Then he wouldn't be a real prophet, would he?
Well, he'd be kind of
if you ever have
failure. No.
If you ever have a false prophecy, that means you're a false prophet and you should be put to death.
Yep.
All right. Let's
That's what
see.
the Bible says.
Let's see some relationships between the poems, shall we? And this one, because of how much the poems change, right? Mm-hmm. Like there are 3 that are similar acrostics, and there's one that's kind of long in a weird way, and then the last one just kind of it has the 22 verses, but it's very not orderly in the same way. So William Shea suggested that the book's asymmetrical shape imitates the rhythmic pattern found in funeral dirges in ancient Israel, called the limping or kina meter. This rhythmic pattern contains 3 long beats and 2 short ones. In Shea's analogy, the shortening of the poems and the disappearance of the acrostic form in the latter part of Lamentation of Lamentations construct an ending that drifts off, like the funeral dirge in grief without resolution. The rhythmic pattern dies because it was written in remembrance of Jerusalem, the city that died away. So it's that's his idea, although it's not clear. There's really no way to like hard prove that. Some people have taken up that idea, some people have not. Although there has been a serious debate about like the center of it, like what is the crux of the book itself. And there's not a lot of information on the textual history of this as well. So most commentaries just assume that it's a unity because, I mean, it doesn't really seem to be split off by too much. So let's... that there is a good reason that chapter 3 has been seen as a crux for this book. So Lienefeld identifies a number of interpretive biases that have led interpreters to find chapter 3 to be the book's hermeneutical key. These biases include preference for the male voice of the strong man, Christian identification of the figure in chapter 3 with Christ, and preference for interpretation that favors human reconciliation with God through repentance. But hope does not triumph in the book. It is merely one point of view, more tenuously arrived at even in chapter 3 than commentators have admitted. What the book offers instead of resolute hope, confidence, and reconciliation with God are, quote, intersecting perspectival discourses. Speeches that move across trauma, rage, hope, doubt, and tired dismay. No single speaker, no particular viewpoint silences the others. Instead, multiple speakers try to find expression for grief, quote, to articulate the inexpressionable and turn death into beauty. So, I guess look on the bright side, although, this stuff is horrible. It's certainly, I think, it does use metaphors a lot. Because, seriously, we'll get into it. There's, no way some of this is, there's no way it's literal. It's poetry, right? Like, you won't find, very literal information here, which is why it's often so hard to date. So that's the basic idea behind the book of Lamentations.
So why is it read on Good Friday?
Well, because like I mentioned, the association with Christ.
Just in chapter 3?
Right?
Yeah. But I'm also, I think at this point, would like to bring in a friend of mine who's lurking right now, who refers to himself as the ultra-reformed Jew. And he describes his parents as professional lamenters, right? And in particular, they tried to get their children to be in the lamenting mode, because he said that was sort of the essence of what they were raised as in Judaism as sorrow and lament type of stuff. And even if he sort of tried to say, well, but we have a state of Israel now, so we shouldn't be so lamenting. He was actually punished. Each of their 5 kids were required to memorize one of the chapters of Lamentations in Hebrew and recite it. And because he was saying, yeah, but we've got Israel now, so we shouldn't be so sorrowful, he was made to memorize chapter 3.
Oh,
to memorize chapter 3. That is a bummer.
That sucks.
And so he kind of sort of says, yes, he's going to be particularly lurking in there. But for those that aren't lurking, if you get the thumbs up,
that'd be very, very helpful.
Help.
Yeah,
and if we can if we can turn up Landon a little bit.
How well we do.
All right. Well, why don't we hop into Lamentations?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Chapter 1. How doth the city sit solitary that was full of people? How is she become as a widow? She that was great among the nations and princess among the provinces. How has she become tributary?
Yeah, so
Obviously,
No, mine
talking.
says forced laborer.
So slave.
Become a forced laborer.
reduced to forced labor, yeah.
Yeah. So this is obviously talking about the exile.
Well, it's not necessarily about the exile. It could also be referred to the Assyrian invasion, for example.
It could.
Yeah.
Or the general thing that happened with Israel and Judah being not taking care of the high places and getting smacked constantly.
But I would think
Smitten by God, who then laments and brings them back only to punish them again, because that's what God does, I guess.
But I would think if it were talking about the Assyrian invasion, it would be a little different. Like, this is very much like what was in Jeremiah.
Right.
Well, remember,
And-
Lawrence said this is going to be a lot of metaphor.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course it's going to be a lot of
Not
money.
only is it a lot of metaphors, like there are clear links to like it's very close in these themes, but I mean it can't be reliably linked to Jeremiah in any way. And
Well, neither can the book of Jeremiah.
right, but you get what I mean to
Wow.
the same author there.
Right.
The Germanic writer. And like I said, these things are actually kind of vague. Like there are multiple times that this could have popped up, and because of the language, how like look at this, like already verse 1, we're talking about like here's the city that's great, but now it's become a widow. It was great among nations, but now it's reduced to labor. Like these huge kind of
Right. And what city has a symbolic marriage relationship with Yahweh?
Jerusalem,
And where's Jerusalem?
in Israel,
In
Judah.
Judah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what happened in Jeremiah?
The exile. Like, yes, obviously. Like,
Well, they spell it out even more directly in the next few verses. She weepeth sore in the night, and her tears are on her cheeks. Among all her lovers, she hath none to comfort her. All her friends have dealt treacherously with her. They are become her enemies. Judah is gone into captivity because of affliction, and because of great servitude. She dwelleth among the heathen. She findeth no rest. All her persecutors overtook her between the straits. It sounds very clearly like the exile.
Yes, it's certainly very close, but it can be linked to other times in Israel's history.
Yeah, it could be, but I would think that the only way that they could be more direct about it is saying the sentence, we are currently talking about the exile that occurred in Jeremiah, right? Like, they talk about all the other cities in the land having been destroyed when it says that all her lovers, none to comfort her, all of her friends have done treacherously.
Yeah, like I'm not saying that it isn't the exile.
Yeah.
The Babylonian one specifically, like, yeah, like it can very easily be that. But
Okay.
It could be other things.
I'm struggling to, because even in the Assyrian invasion, like, it wasn't quite like that, right? And I think it, from the context here, at least in these first 3 verses, it seems to me pretty clear that they're talking about Jerusalem specifically.
I mean, sure. Yeah, that I mean, so it would come after.
Or just
And remember, yeah, because of the kind of language, I don't think like when we do hear laments before, like compare this to some of the laments in Jeremiah itself.
Mhm.
Like they're much less what's the word I'm looking for? Grand, I suppose. So I think that the idea that because I think this would have been written, it could have been written a good amount of time later.
Yeah.
But that was like looking back on the exile and stuff.
But I mean, it's certainly.
Although it could go both
Verse
ways.
3, it's talking about that Judah's gone into exile, it's at that Judah has been stomped on by enemies multiple times before, but certainly the bigger one is when it was entirely conquered and went off to the Babylonian deportation is probably the most significant of some of those.
Okay.
But again, what is the earliest date do we think that Lamentations might have been written?
Well, I think it would have necessarily been later. I think it would be post-exilic, certainly.
I mean, I think the earliest possible date would be sometime after the exile literally occurred.
Yeah, it could be exilic.
Yeah,
that would be the earliest possible one. Sure.
Yeah. The ways of Zion do mourn, because none come to the solemn feasts. All her gates are desolate. Her priests sigh, her virgins are afflicted, and she is in bitterness. Her adversaries are the chief. Her enemies prosper. For the Lord hath afflicted her for the multitude of her transgressions. Her children are gone into captivity before the enemy. And from the daughter of Zion all her beauty is departed. Her princes are become like harts that find no pasture, and they are gone without strength before the pursuer.
Yeah, so there's a lot of very interesting imagery, I think, because, of course, we've seen this a lot, that Israel has been personified very often, as daughter Zion, right? But now we're, kind of at a little bit of a different position. We've also seen it before, but it's where Israel is married to Yahweh. So on this,
and daughter of Zion does show up later in the book.
Yeah, and we've seen daughter of Zion used plenty,
and it's here in verse 6.
Exactly.
Yeah. So in verse, go ahead.
On the whole daughter of Zion thing, the personification of Jerusalem as daughter Zion or daughter of Zion has an ancient tradition that receives further development in Lamentations. The ancient world commonly understood cities as female and personified them as divine wives of the resident God. Biblical representations of daughter Zion draw on these depictions, but do not understand the city as a deity. In Lamentations, the personified city is the punished wife of Yahweh, who fulfills all the prophecies against her in the books of Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Hosea.
So on verse 6, mine in the middle says that her princes have become like bucks that have found no pasture. And you...
Mine said hearts, but it's HARTS. So presumably that's just a term for the same thing. It's not talking about the organ.
Yes.
Which verse?
Verse 6.
This is verse 6, the middle, has departed from the daughter of Zion. Her princes have become like bucks that have found no pasture. They have fled without strength before the pursuer.
Okay, yeah. Her nobles have become like stags.
Okay. So they're just grass-eating animals that
I suppose, yeah,
have no pasture.
But it says heart. I don't know what that is. That some ancient arcane thing for a grazing animal, or is it just the King James having the quote correct translation unquote?
I'm assuming it's a grazing animal. They call
what
things.
What does the Hebrew say? What is it? Is it?
No,
it
says stag. It says stag.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's something like that. Let's continue. Jerusalem. It's just Jerusalem.
Yeah. By the way, I said that heart is adult male deer, according to.
Okay, so it is a stag.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jerusalem hath grievously sinned, therefore she is removed. All that honored her despise her, because they have seen her nakedness. Yea, she sigheth and turneth backward. Ooh. Her filthiness is in her skirts. She remembereth not her last end. Therefore she came down wonderfully. She had no comforter. O Lord, behold!
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 Behold.
My affliction, for the enemy hath magnified himself.
Oh, and just so everyone knows, the Greek word for behold is idu.
You do.
Nah.
You do.
The adversary. The adversary. Ooh.
Yeah. Let's see if there's any commentary on that. Maybe it says what we want it to say.
Does it?
By the way, I should mention that the verse 9, my translation has no behold. So obviously the King James wins here.
Ah, yes. The best translation.
No, there is no commentary. It might say what we want it to say, but I don't know if it does.
Okay. So the adversary hath spread out his hand upon all her pleasant things, for she hath seen that the heathen entered into her sanctuary, whom thou didst command that they should not enter into thy congregation. All her people sigh. They seek bread. They have given their pleasant things for meat to relieve the soul. See, O Lord, and consider, for I am become vile. Is it nothing to you, all ye that pass by? Behold!
Behold!
Behold.
And see if there be any sorrow like unto my sorrow, which is done unto me, wherewith the Lord hath afflicted me in the day of his fierce anger. From above hath he sent fire into my bones, and it prevaileth against them. He hath spread a net for my feet. He hath turned me back. He hath made me desolate and faint all the day.
So, on this section here, what we just read, this is part of Jerusalem's appeal. The poet is clear that the Babylonians are the originators of the disaster, but what Jerusalem experiences is not their assault, but that of God. Yahweh's anger is the cause. It is he who has inflicted Jerusalem's sorrow upon it, sending the fire of pain from on high like a lightning bolt, tripping it up in a net. It goes on some of those. But some of the metaphors are traditional, being found in the Psalms of Appeal and prophetic texts modeled on them. Yeah, lots of phrases we have seen a good amount, and it fits in with the Jerusalem or the Israelite theology.
Well, it was so slow on the behold that it did the commands and then said behold for all of those beholds.
That's pretty good.
That's amazing. Thank you, Nightbot.
It completely fits in with the theology where it's like, we have done this and this is God getting us for it. Like, we have earned this.
Yep. Unfortunately, we don't have commentary on the adversary.
No.
Oof.
It says the foe in altars.
The foe.
Yeah.
The yoke of my transgressions is bound by his hand. They are wreathed and come up upon my neck. He hath made my strength to fall. The Lord hath delivered me into their hands, from whom I am not able to rise up. The Lord hath...
That's interesting translation, because mine says the Lord has given me into the hands of those for whom I am not able to stand.
I mean, it all means, I don't know if the article's there, but it all works the same.
I know it works the same. I just noted that usually the American Standard Bible and the King James were more parallel, but here there's a lot of word changes that perhaps some of them are more poetic. I mean, because I take it these verses have some sort of meter or rhyme, so maybe it's the interpretation to try to keep the form of the poem the same is at work here.
Interestingly, in the New Testament, whenever it says Son of Man in English translations, in the Greek, it says the Son of the Man.
Great.
Ooh.
But they just remove the article because, it doesn't really make that much of a difference for that case because
the son of the man, as in the big dude.
It's a Hebraism, so like it would be understood that they were carrying it over.
Oh, no, he's the man.
No, he's our new original character, Sun Man.
Oh, wow.
Okay. The Lord hath trodden underfoot all my mighty men in the midst of me. He hath called an assembly against me to crush my young men. The Lord hath trodden the virgin, the daughter of Judah, as in a winepress.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty intense, man. For these things I weep. Mine eye runneth down with water, because the comforter that should relieve my soul is far from me. My children are desolate, because the enemy prevailed. Zion spreadeth forth her hands, and there is none to comfort her. The Lord hath commanded concerning Jacob that his adversaries should be round about him. Jerusalem is as a menstruous woman among them.
Menstruous woman.
Yeah. Which is unclean according to the laws.
Right.
And you gotta take like a week or two off to do that cleaning.
Yeah, they have to do like ritual bathing in order
Which which verse was that?
That was verse 17.
Yeah, because this really is
So Zion spread her hands. There is none to console her. The Lord has summoned for Jacob round about him his foes. Jerusalem has become despised among them. Oh, here's a note actually. So for despise, the poet again uses the term nida that refers to a menstruant. Okay. So it means despised, like or I guess the term more literally means someone who's menstruating. But
yeah, because mine says Jerusalem has become an unclean thing among them.
Okay.
And it sounds like the King James translator tried to interpret those words and put it into a more poetic frame, or it's
well, they gave a direct translation.
Yeah, that would be a more literal
King James. But it means an unclean thing.
Yeah,
right?
like that's the purpose behind saying it.
Yeah.
Also, here's a Russian drink.
An invisible Russian drink.
Yeah, because it is a green drink. So it's not exactly the most visible to
it's
you.
a magical bottle. By the way, I've had not that drink of that bottle, but I've had that the herbish drink.
Yeah, for anyone that's interested, it's called tarhun, and it is made with tarragon. It's delicious.
And actually, it's quite good. As I say, I'm thankful to my former interns for bringing it over from Russia, smuggling it in their suitcase. And
we also, if one of you two guys is interested, I brought Baikal, which is the Russian competitor to Coca-Cola that they started producing during the Cold War.
Interesting.
So I also brought
I
that.
think we've tried that before, and it is better than Coca-Cola. No offense.
It's about the same.
It's really close.
Yeah. I mean,
it's less sweet to me. So
it reminded me more of the classic Coca-Cola before there was a classic Coca-Cola. It was just Coca-Cola.
Correctamundo.
Back when it had the Coke.
But no, that's the original Coca-Cola.
Right.
Yes, as opposed to the classic one. Yes.
Okay, let's continue here. Pretty close to the end of the first chapter here. The Lord is righteous, for I have rebelled against his commandment. Hear, I pray you, all my people, and behold!
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 Oh.
My sorrow! My virgins and my young men are gone into captivity. I called for my lovers, but they deceived me. My priests and mine elders gave up the ghost in the city, while they sought their meat to relieve their souls. Behold!
Behold! Oh, boy.
Behold.
So gave up the ghost. My
Means
priest.
dead.
Yeah. I've heard the phrase before. I never actually knew what it meant.
It's been used a lot.
Yeah. I've heard it like, TV shows and movies and stuff. But yeah, and then I looked at the translation. I was like, they perished. Yeah. So yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, we've seen it in the Bible before.
Have we? In the
Yes.
Bible? Okay.
Yes.
Are you manually triggering Nightbot for us? Thank you.
Yes, it seems, by the way, and I did it wrong. You have to say bang commands to bang the Nightbot to have it perform its duty, although it only does one behold. Right?
I know.
Right.
So it's we got a behold deficit here. But how many beholds have we had so far?
That was
Is
the
this
fifth
like
one, I think.
That was the fourth one.
Yes.
That was the fourth
And
one?
that's
Okay.
it for our ratings for today, apparently.
Oh no, there's more later.
Oh, good.
At least in the King James.
Oh.
Yeah. So please let us know when our translations are behold deficient.
I'll let you know. O Lord, for I am in distress. My bowels are troubled. Mine heart is turned within me.
That sounds distressful.
Yes, for I have grievously rebelled. Abroad the sword breatheth. At home there is as death. They have heard that I sigh. There is none to comfort me. All mine enemies have heard of my trouble. They are glad that thou hast done it. Thou wilt bring the day that thou hast called, and they shall be like unto me.
So may they be like me. This line and the preceding one incorporate an implied causal sequence. First, the enemies gloat over the destruction of Judah. Then the speaker registers the fact that the catastrophe was God's doing and that the foe was only his instrument. Finally, the speaker hopes that the same dire fate will overtake Zion's conquerors. This is, in fact, a recurrent idea in prophetic literature that Judah's enemies may be God's rod of punishment, but will in turn suffer for the terrible harm they have inflicted on Judah. This theme is continued in the next verse. So, we've seen that already in Jeremiah, but also we were talking about this when we read it. That's not the most. That's not really the most moral view.
No,
So,
it's not. But
how
how many views in the Bible are the most moral view?
well, the most moral.
12 of them,
I don't
yeah.
know about that.
using the subjective morality that you have access to.
Okay.
Yep. Those angelic
I
tablets.
suppose.
Remember, I got those recently. Yeah.
Let all their wickedness come before thee, and do unto them as thou hast done unto me, for all my transgressions. For my sighs are many, and my heart is faint. And that is the end of chapter 1. If you're enjoying the stream so far, which has been going on for 48 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Welcome to a nightmare stream. It's gonna go forever.
Hey, we're reading a whole book today,
I know.
and we
So-
introduced it.
Yeah.
We're gonna
If,
end it. We're gonna wrap it up, and we're gonna give
Okay,
it a
so please
review.
give it a like.
Yes,
And
the
share
likes
it.
are appreciated.
yeah.
And important to share it with various people like landlords or your tax auditor or even former presidents.
Accountants, police officers.
Black hat hackers who know how to make YouTube algorithms in our favor. I mean, who? What?
Who said that?
Nobody said that.
No one
Don't do
recommended
that.
So, yeah, let's hop into chapter 2, shall we?
All right. So the theme that binds this poem together is that all that has happened to Jerusalem is Yahweh's doing. He has been a pitiless warrior, attacking the buildings and the leaders and the people. Whether he has been justified in behaving like this is beside the point. The fact is that he has acted in anger, turning himself into Israel's enemy and disowning his own sanctuary according to his long-established design. There is not a word in this poem of Jerusalem deserving what has happened to it, for the poet is experiencing the people's grief, not sitting in judgment over them.
Right, and one of the things that was
but Jerusalem didn't take care of the high places. I mean, how simple is it? If you don't take care of the high places, then bad things happen to you.
obviously.
You have to get rid of them.
Of course.
You got to get rid of those high places.
Obviously, those high places are just the worst.
Make them low places. Knock them down.
It was pointed out in the Old Testament survey that we really shouldn't be looking at at the author here as a reporter. He isn't. Like, he's writing to portray the feelings of the community or the people, or maybe just even himself. Maybe he just felt incredibly passionate about this. But I think everyone was
Style at the time. It was
it was the style at the time.
Yeah.
All right.
No, it wasn't. Because Eerdman says outright, the poet is personally in distress with eyes blinded by tears. The poetic imagination is unable to sum up any comparable tragedy that would perhaps serve as comfort to its citizens.
Okay,
so it was not the style at the time.
Ah, damn.
Chapter 2. How the Lord in his anger has set the daughter of Zion under a cloud. He has cast down from heaven to earth the splendor of Israel. He has not remembered his footstool in the day of his anger.
This would be a feature of, his sitting arrangements on his throne.
Yeah.
He would have a stool for his feet.
Yeah, and then under the clouds, so I'm guessing, he thrown from any heavenly kind of importance, I suppose.
Mm.
Yeah, I have the best chair and a footstool. These guys don't.
The Lord has swallowed up without mercy all the all the habitations of Jacob. In his wrath, he has broken down the strongholds of the daughter of Judah.
So the verb means to swallow when it says swallows up.
Giggity.
But it is rendered in the intensive conjugation, suggesting total destruction. So Alter uses the term obliterated.
That's a good one. I like obliterated.
Yeah.
He has brought down to the ground in dishonor the kingdom and its rulers. He has cut down in fierce anger all the might of Israel. He has withdrawn from them his right hand in the face of the enemy. He has burned like a flaming fire in Jacob, consuming all around. Just really intense imagery.
Mm-hmm.
Consuming around about, yes.
Yeah, so even in the Hebrew, when they say flaming fire, the nouns are joined in the construct form esh and lahava. They're synonyms. The form indicates intensification. So Alter uses the term white hot.
Okay. He has bent his bow like an enemy, with his right hand set like a foe. He has killed all who were delightful in our eyes. In the tent of the daughter of Zion, he has poured out his fury like fire.
So all precious to the eye, all that were delightful in our eyes. This may be an epithet in reference to the children.
Oh, well, I was reading a little bit of this last night when I was setting up the stream, and we do get quite a crazy reference to children later on.
Oh, wonderful.
A very intense one. So be ready for that. The Lord has become like an enemy. He has swallowed up Israel. He has swallowed up all its places. He has laid in ruins its strongholds, and he has multiplied in the daughter of Judah mourning and lamentation. He has laid waste he has waste his booth like a garden, laid in ruins his meeting people. The Lord has made Zion forget festival and Sabbath, and in his fierce indignation has spurned king and priest.
So in the first part of this verse, they're referring to the temple specifically.
Okay. So temple is, not around. So people can't meet there, and because of that, then they can't do the festivals or the celebrations at all. And the kings and priests got nothing to do. The Lord has scorned his altar, disowned his sanctuary. He has delivered into the hand of the enemy the walls of her palaces. They raised a clamor in the house of the Lord as on the day of festival. So it was just as crazy, I suppose.
Yeah, it's an ironic statement.
Yeah. Like when you shout for joy and then you shout because someone is killing you.
Ah! Which one was which?
The Lord determined to lay in ruins the wall of the daughter of Zion. He stretched out the measuring line. He did not restrain his hand from destroying. He caused rampart and wall to lament. They languished together. Wow. So, yeah, that's how much things were languishing.
Yeah.
That even inanimate objects were able to do so. Stretched out the measuring line. Now, I think that's
so
imagery.
Ordinarily, the measuring line would be used in construction. Here, the structures of Jerusalem are measured out for destruction.
I see. Okay, that's a good one. And also the measuring line, I remember covering that in the Heavenly Horseman video a little bit. It's some Ezekiel thing, I think.
Oh, well, we'll be reading that soon.
Ordered the commentaries today.
Good.
Her gates have sunk into the ground. He has ruined and broken her bars. Her king and princes are among the nations. The law is no more, and her prophets find no vision from the Lord. The time of prophecy has ended.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, now they're the enemies. They have become their own worst enemies, I suppose.
Yeah, and there's no teachings.
No.
Yeah.
The elders of the daughter of Zion sit on the ground in silence. They have thrown dust on their heads and put on sackcloth. The young women of Jerusalem have bowed their heads to the ground. My eyes. So, these are all like lamenting things.
Yeah, so this is treated as a section in Eerdmans 2:1-10. And it says, I'm not going to read the whole section here, but it essentially lists out all these ways that Yahweh's anger and outbursts have been responsible for the destruction of Jerusalem and, moreover, Judea. He says, above all, he has brought this destruction into being according to a deliberate plan. He has long harbored, measuring the city out by line for demolition, in a bitter reversal of a program of building works. Here the poet's vision is very focused. There is no word of how justified Yahweh has been in all this destruction, for in this, the Guernica of the Old Testament, the overwhelming divine anger fills the whole canvas.
Wow.
So yeah, this is what it looks like when Yahweh is pissed off.
My eyes are spent with weeping. My stomach churns. My bile is poured out to the ground because of the destruction of the daughter of my people, because infants and babies faint in the streets of the city.
So here at this halfway point in the poem is the first time that the poet speaks in a personal voice. Instead of being general, he's like, my eyes are spent with weeping. And it marks the halfway point.
We didn't have that before where he said his own eyes?
Nope.
Huh. I thought we did. All right.
No. It's all talking about Yahweh for the first half of this poem.
Sure. And also, Jerusalem as well, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
All right. They cry to their mothers, "Where is bread and wine?" The children, the babies and infants.
Yes, it says they, of course, can't speak So one must assume that both terms refer hyperbolically to vulnerable small children, though it may also seem odd that little children would ask about wine.
That's what I was curious about. Why would they be asking about wine?
They are made to invoke
my wine.
two principal staples, grain and wine.
Okay. They ask, where is bread and wine, as they faint like a wounded man in the streets of...
Didn't, in the alphabet of Ben Sira, didn't he also ask for wine?
Did he? I don't remember.
I think he did, like right at the beginning when he's
Really
born.
on.
And
Oh,
he's
yeah.
a talking baby.
I remember. I know. You're right. He was a talking baby, but maybe he asked for wine. I don't remember. See, I remember the more insane stuff from that. There's a lot of insanity in the alphabet of Ben Sira.
Right. Why do donkeys smell their pee?
Yeah, and why does the raven copulate with their mouth or something like that? Was that the crow?
Yeah, that was the raven.
By the way, sheep also smell their pee. At least rams do. That's
Yeah.
how they determine whether ewe is ready or not.
Oof.
Or just maybe silly things that male sheep do. You never know.
Are you ready?
So as they faint like a wounded man in the streets of the city, as their life is poured out on their mother's bosom. What can I say for you? To what compare you, O daughter of Jerusalem? What can I liken to you, that I may comfort you, O virgin daughter of Zion? For your ruin is vast as the sea. Who can heal you? And by the way, I got that image of like babies and infants like on the streets getting hammered and falling over. Like that's the image I got from that other verse.
Yeah.
Your prophets have seen for you false and deceptive visions. They have not exposed your iniquity to restore your fortunes.
And that is something that was talked about pretty extensively in Jeremiah, where they go into detail about how all the other prophets sucked.
Yeah, basically. They have not exposed your iniquity to restore your fortunes, but have seen for you oracles that are false and misleading. All who pass along the way clap their hands at you. They hiss and wag their heads at the daughter of Jerusalem. Hissing was another big thing in Jeremiah, right?
Yeah, that is a major thing. Also, I want to point out
They scoff at thee.
in Alter's translation, just before, he said, did not lay bare your crime to restore your fortunes, and saw visions for you of emptiness and delusion.
That's
which is,
a lot cooler.
yeah, much better.
What do those look like? I gotta see those.
Oh, well, look over there.
It's a bunch of mirrors.
Either way, so they're being hissed at. Is this the city that was called the perfection of beauty? The joy of all the earth? That's the thing that they're hissing. All your enemies rail against you. They hiss, they gnash their teeth, they cry, we have swallowed her. Ah, this is the day we longed for. Now we have it. We see it.
They add insult to injury.
Yeah. And also the gnashing their teeth. That's, of course, a phrase that will be used a lot for hell later. Weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Yeah.
The Lord has done what he purposed. He has carried out his word, which he commanded long ago. He has thrown down without pity. He has made the enemy rejoice over you and exalted the might of your foes.
Sounded like wrestling. He's thrown down without pity.
Yeah, I suppose it did sound like wrestling. Their heart cried to the Lord, O wall of the daughter of Zion. Let tears stream down like a torrent day and night. Give yourself no rest, your eyes no respite. So first of all, that rhymed a little bit. Actually, that did rhyme.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the word for in when it says your eyes.
Also, wailing wall.
Yes. But the word when it says about his eyes, here Alter uses the term pupils, and he says the Hebrew bat ainek, seemingly the daughter of your eye, is almost certainly a shortened form of Bavat Ainek, your pupil. So the terminology there is not just for the eye, but for a specific part of the eye.
Let's continue. Arise!
Arise!
Cry out in the night.
Arise.
At the beginning of the night watches. Pour out your heart like water before the presence of the Lord. Lift your hands to him for the lives of your children who faint for hunger at the head of every street.
So when it says arise, sing out in the night, the terminology there is usually used for joyful songs. Here it's obviously not.
Not a joyful song. No.
It's a lament.
The joy's all out.
Whoa.
Look, O Lord, and see. Is there a behold there in yours?
In the KJV, which verse is this?
That's verse 20.
Yes, behold.
Yeah, behold. Why not?
Behold.
Oh,
With whom have you dealt thus? Should women eat the fruit of their wombs, the children of their tender care? Should priest and prophet be killed in the sanctuary of the Lord? In the dust of the streets lie the young and the old. My young women and my young men have fallen by the sword. You have killed them in the day of your anger, slaughtering without pity. You summoned, as if to a festival day, my terrors on every side. And on the day of the anger of the Lord, no one escaped or survived. Those whom I held and raised, my enemy destroyed.
Yeah, so the
Wow.
line...
Cheery.
Also,
Very cheery.
a lot of that was in Jeremiah. So, first of all, the thing I referenced before, so verse 20 there about eating the fruit of their wombs, that's straight up Deuteronomy 28.
Yeah, but it occurs throughout
It does.
The Bible, and Alter notes the horrific specter of cannibalism under the duress of starvation in a time of siege repeatedly haunts biblical literature, and there are grounds to infer that it sometimes actually happened.
There's a good chance, I suppose. And then the whole young and the old in the streets, the women and men fallen by the sword, that was in Jeremiah. That same imagery together was in Jeremiah, I think. I don't know if there's any commentary on that.
There
but
not any commentary on that, but you've provided commentary on that.
yeah, I could swear it's in Jeremiah. I could be wrong, but I really do think it was in Jeremiah. Or was it... yeah, I think it's Jeremiah.
so long. It probably is Jeremiah.
Unless it was in Wisdom.
It could have been.
I don't know. I
know.
doubt it
that
was in
doesn't
Wisdom.
sound like Wisdom of Solomon.
But I mean, I don't know. I do remember that specific imagery altogether. Either way, that is the end of the chapter. Yeah, that's the end of chapter 2.
If you're enjoying the stream so far, share it with your friends, family, neighbors, everyone you've ever met or not met. Your circus
Your
ring
circus?
People
masters.
who you might meet later on. So that's why you want to share with them now. So when you meet them, you have something in common.
Yeah. You should all go buy our t-shirts and like search for each other in the crowds of people throughout the world.
Yeah, because that's what people are doing is crowding right now.
Yeah, right now, don't do that. Do that later.
Hey, it'll be even easier than normal.
Oh, yeah, because you can see all the shirts.
Yeah.
Do we? No, we don't. Okay. All right. So Landon, I believe you have chapter 3.
Very much so. Yes. So there is chapter 3. And of course, chapter 3 has 66 verses as opposed to 22. Perhaps it's like the middle of the thing, and therefore there's something symmetrical in its construction.
Yeah, that has often
but,
been proposed. Although
Unlike the other 3 acrostic chapters, this alphabetic acrostic has 3 lines for each of the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Thus, for the letter Aleph, it begins with ani, I, which I assume is in your translation is the first word of this.
Yes.
And this form leads to even more syntactic inversions than is common in biblical Hebrew, with the object of the verbs that occur throughout, especially the object of the verb is fronted at the beginning of many lines. So the syntax is strange.
And the verses are basically half of what they were before. They're half as long, but it is more verses. Or I guess not even half as long. Yeah, I think they're a third as long even. So it all works out. So for the section we're going over now, 1 through 21 is the first section that the author here in Erdman's commentary notes. The speaker is now not the city of Jerusalem depicted as the woman, but the poet represented as one of its citizens, encapsulating in his own experience that of the whole city and its inhabitants. In a hail of metaphor, the speaker expresses the sense that God has misled him, destroyed his health, besieged him like a city, thrown him away like a corpse, blocked his way, a whole bunch of stuff. It's like, he treated me like shit. The question of whether perhaps the suffering is deserved is not being raised. The issue here is the feeling itself.
Mm.
So in my translation, of course, it has sort of these above chapter comments, and it says Lamentation of the Afflicted, and it has paragraphing of verses 1 through 18 rather than 1 through 21. And then so that 1 through 18 is the first paragraph, 19 to the end of the chapter is the other paragraph. Whereas you're saying that the Erdman's has the stuff of 1 through 21.
Yes. This happens a lot. Scholars usually break things off in more thematic ways or perhaps more textual ways than a lot of Bible translations. I'm not sure how they just do it differently, I suppose. So,
well, the math works out too. Because,
also the math.
It's 3 per letter in the acrostic. So
yeah.
I guess yours just didn't include.
I suppose.
Or didn't care about the letter stuff.
Yeah.
But also it's interesting that if you had 66 verses, there are it breaks it at 21, and is the next one
it's
1 to 21.
The next one is 22 to 23. Sorry, to 33. My bad. And then the one after that is 34 to 66. This is how the scholar does it.
Again, and I'm correcting on there. This one goes 1 through 18, then 19 to 38, and then 39 to 66. So there are 3 paragraphs in this translation, but obviously they're breaking it thematically versus poetically or something like that. So
Alter doesn't break it up like that at all. He just has next to the line the Hebrew letter.
Yeah.
And
that would be a better way, honestly.
Yeah. Anyway, so chapter 3. I am the man who has seen affliction because the rod of his wrath. He has driven me and made me walk in darkness and not in light. Surely against me he has turned his hand repeatedly all the day. He has caused my flesh and my skin to waste away. He has broken my bones. He has besieged and encompassed me with bitterness and hardship.
So,
oh dear.
No object of the verb for...
Oh dear was not part of the translation. I was just limiting.
So for he built up against me, encompassed me with misery and suffering, and alters here. It says... for he built up against me, no object of the verb is supplied in the Hebrew, but by implications, what's suggested is the building up of siege works. In this case, the building material of the siege works is misery and suffering.
In dark places, he has made me dwell, like those who have been long dead. He has walled me in so I cannot go out. He has made my chain heavy. Even when I cry out and call for help, he shuts out my prayer.
So
Boy,
this is this walling in imagery is manifesting images of the siege works that were brought up in verse 5. The speaker, Israel, cannot move, both because his way is blocked by large stones, which will occur in verse 9, and because he's weighed down with heavy fetters.
Yes, because in verse 9 it says, he has blocked my ways with hewn stone and made my paths crooked. It is to me like a bear lying in wait, like a lion in secret places.
More of these secret things popping out and attacking.
Yeah, the wild beasts and lions specifically.
And this one's also bears.
Yeah.
Just like
Lions
those
and
bears.
Oh my.
Good grief.
He has turned aside my ways and torn me into pieces. He has made me desolate. He has bent his bow and set me as a target for the arrow. He has made the arrows of his quiver to enter my inward parts. Ouch.
I have the translation kidneys.
I have innards.
Innards. Okay, fair enough.
And inward parts in there, they also say literally kidneys, but this translation liked inwards, I guess, because of poetic stuff. Anyway, I have become a laughingstock to all my people. Their mocking song all the day has filled me with bitterness, has made me drunk with wormwood. By the way, you don't want to drink wormwood. It's bad stuff.
Got absinthe.
Yes, because it will. And by the way, absinthe does not make you go crazy. I'm proof of it because I go to Switzerland and you drink absinthe. Although the best absinthe, even though now in Switzerland absinthe or wormwood is actually legal, the best absinthe you get is in the other parts, right? The what you do is there's certain places like a rock or a stone where you put some cash, and then magically sometime later bottles will appear next to that stone. and multiple and this is literally true. Multiple will do this. And the person, based on amount of cash, puts in sets of bottles, and then everyone goes there and gets their bottle, not the other ones, and takes it away, and no one steals the cash, and everyone. Because if anyone were to mess it up, then the person who's making the absinthe wouldn't bring it forward, and everyone would be sad. So
that's pretty good. I like that.
Just a little something or other for Fred's a very Swiss thing.
That would definitely not
16.
work in the States.
They do it on the honor system, and I guess they have more honor than us.
Yes. But anyway, but absinthe is actually pretty good stuff, and it doesn't make you go crazy. He has broken my teeth with gravel.
Also, hold on, Landon. What's the name that just popped up, Chris? Bob, thank you for abandoning God. Well, we don't know if he abandoned God yet because we do have Christian viewers.
Yeah.
But thanks for subscribing.
Yep. Thanks.
Yes, thank you for subscribing and so forth. So whether you abandon God or not, thank you for subscribing because subscribing makes you cool, or cooler than when you would otherwise if you're not subscribing. So click that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you can be notified when these people put out more cool stuff. Anyway,
absolutely. Listen to the smartest man.
Yeah. So being fed bitterness and drinking wormwood are conventional terms for suffering. The crunching down on gravel is a shockingly concrete image, chewing what cannot be chewed after drinking poison for unspeakable
Hold on, was that pun in there,
distress.
or are you just pointing out that there is the pun there?
I'm pointing out that
Okay, so that wasn't...
No, it literally says that, but I'm not sure if alter
intended
Okay.
for it to be upon.
Gotcha.
Yeah. By the way, usually wormwood and absinthe is actually mixed with sweet stuff because I guess it's to control its bitterness. So maybe these folks have a bad wormwood recipe. Also, it's done with moderation. But it's interesting. It said, "He has broken my teeth with gravel. He has made me cower in dust." Right. So why are you eating rocks in the first place? That's what.
Maybe it's like a face stomp, like beat the shit out of me, curb stomped. Curb stomped.
Yeah.
The
No.
person isn't taking a bowl of gravel and mixing milk and eating it as cereal. It's a thing.
I thought it was rock candy, but it was really just gemstones.
And my soul has been rejected from peace. I have forgotten happiness.
Paris
We're really good.
coming in with the 29.92.
92.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Paris. That helps us move towards, I guess we're about, around 430-ish or so?
Yep, I'd say around there. Yep.
425?
Yep. Yeah, but roundabout 420,
So verse
430.
18. So I say, my strength has perished, and so my hope from the Lord. That was in quotations. All right. So verse 19, which is a new paragraph, but not necessarily the new section. Remember my affliction and my wandering, the wormwood and the bitterness. My soul remembers and is bowed down within me. Thus I recall to my mind. Therefore I have hope. Well, given what's gone before, it doesn't seem like you're very hopeful.
Yeah, no. Also,
I mean,
the wording is pretty strange here. Alter translates this as, my very life does recall and bends down upon me. Thus I answer to my heart. Therefore I yet hope. And he says that, well,
Go ahead.
he doesn't really say anything textually about it. So
there has been so for the next section that's coming up, there has been no hope at all in chapters 1 and 2. But here, once the poet has focused his mind on God's part in the suffering, he becomes able to hope. For God is not only an avenging God who can punish cruelty, but he is also a God of enduring love, whose mercies are never spent. Oh boy, this is, we can talk about that all day. But
because the section here is talking about hope of relief through God's mercy. But if you have been following along what's happening with Israel and with Judah, God's chosen ones get the fecal matter out of them, right? And God's mercy is to set up so that they don't take away the high places, and then God goes and brasts them again and so forth. So I guess what I would say is, well, the hope for what? So you can be set up again to get kicked again because of God's mercy.
Now, if we forget about all that stuff, then it's like, okay, so he's merciful. And then the commentator goes on here to say, and therefore the word good, which has not been spoken before in this book, can begin each of the 3 verses, 25 through 27. Yahweh is good, and if one is patient, one will see his salvation. And that was kind of the whole point of Job, right? And even in part... well, it could be argued that it's at least in part Ecclesiastes, but not exactly.
maybe.
Maybe it's like implied.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, let's continue.
Yes. Okay, so we're now in verse 22, which is a new section, according to some commentaries. The Lord's loving kindness is indeed never cease. You could fool me about that, but for his compassions never fail, except we've been chapters and books of what that means to be compassion. So I mean, come on, writer there. I mean, get with the program here. So okay, let me read verse 22 again without all the snide commentary. The Lord's loving kindness is indeed never cease, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. Now I guess it's God's faithfulness as opposed to the person's faithfulness.
Well,
whose faithfulness are we talking about?
So I think that would be the person's faithfulness, or the faithfulness of the people.
No, it's the faithfulness of God, because
I think it's the faithfulness of
faithful
God,
in renewing things every morning. You know, making
Oh,
the
yeah,
sunrise
yeah.
and
which, if you've been paying attention to Jeremiah and Lamentations, seems like you can certainly, that's very convincing. That's way. So verse 24, the Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I have hope in him. The Lord is good to those who wait for him. Could fool me. To the person who seeks him. It is good that he waits silently for the salvation of the Lord. It is good for a man that he should bear the yoke of his youth.
so
Let him sit alone, be silent, since he has laid it on him.
So Alter translates this as good is the Lord for those who look to him, for the person who seeks him out. Good that he hopes in silence for rescue from the Lord. Good is it for a man that he bear a yoke in his mouth. And he explains that after the profession of faith in the previous line, my portion is the Lord, the speaker goes on as he reaches the letter Tet to proclaim God's goodness in 3 lines that begin with Tov, good. So it really should begin with the word good for
That's
these
noted
3
here as well.
verses.
Yeah.
So I guess verse 29, let him put his mouth in the dust. Perhaps there is hope. Let him give cheek to the smiter, and let him be filled with reproach. For the Lord will not reject forever. Really? Seems like it's doing a good job of proving otherwise. For if he causes grief, then he will have compassion according to his abundant loving kindness.
Yeah, eventually he'll have compassion. It gets kind of like, it's the whole idea of this divine justice that's been permeated through cultures for forever.
And then God remembered his people.
Right,
I
right.
forgot about those
Yeah.
guys. Whoops.
Yeah, it's like so. Is this like schizophrenic or sociopathic or just
Normal
plain
Alzheimer's.
douchebaggery? I don't know.
Just regular Alzheimer's.
It sounds
But again, it seems incredible that in the middle of those Lamentations, there's like, but suck it up because God's is abundant in his loving kindness. Just kind of shows it in odd ways.
Yeah, I wouldn't say anything in the book of Jeremiah was even closely related to any degree of kindness at all.
So it wasn't merciful. That's for sure. And depending on who you are, you could say it's just. I don't think it was just, but
I would say that at least he was kind to Nebuchadnezzar, but then at the end
Right,
of Jeremiah, it's no longer being kind to Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and so it's an odd thing. And again, I know that the sort of the Christian apologist will say, but that's the Old Testament, New Testament, things change. But consider when this text was written and its context.
exactly.
Even there, right? It's there. So let's move on to verse 33, shall we? For he does not afflict willingly or grieve the sons of men, to crush under his feet all the prisoners of the land, to deprive a man of justice in the presence of the Most High, to defraud a man of his lawsuit, of the things the Lord does not approve. Of those things the Lord does not approve.
Yeah.
Who is there who speaks and it comes to pass unless the Lord has commanded it? It is not from the mouth of the Most High, that both good and ill go forth. That's the end of that paragraph.
Yeah. So like Isaiah, where it says God is the source of evil and good. And I guess you can't say anything about what's going to happen unless God decrees it. You can't be like, I'm going to go get some water.
No. You cannot.
Yeah.
Unless God decrees it.
Yes. And then whether or not the well is dry because you've not taken care of the high places, but you have hope that God's ability to keep the water in the well going because reasons, I don't know.
Of course.
So, verse 39. Why should any living mortal or any man offer complaint in the view of his sins? Well, that's an interesting verse because it sort of says, hey, you're a sinner, so you deserve it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, the whole point of this exilic theology was, I don't know if you'd call it a theology. I guess you could. Where I think the rationalization for the Israelites was like they figured they had done something wrong, and that's why they were exiled as punishment.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I mean, I think that's pretty, ad hoc stuff, but that's just, that's the way it was. That's how they interpreted that. So that's what I can tell you.
That thing about, whoever the group you would belong with, we deserve what we're getting because of reasons like past relatives or whatever, that sort of that thing seems to be a really poor way of living one's life. But I'll point out in the New American Standard translation, the above paragraph text now says hope of relief through God's mercy. So we'll see. So again, let me repeat. This is a new paragraph according to this set. Verse 39, why should any living mortal or any man offer complaint in the view of his sins? And everything it says, it clarifies living mortal and then or any man. So I guess they're saying, women, children, orphans, and then any men in particular, or is it's an odd way of expressing it.
Why
Verse
should
20.
a living man complain, a man about the punishment of his sins?
Of what shall a living person complain? A man for his offenses.
Okay, that's probably a better one.
Let us examine and probe our ways. Let us return to the Lord. What, so he can smack you again? I don't know. We lift up our heart and hands towards the God in heaven. We have transgressed and rebelled. Thou hast not pardoned. To say that again. Thou hast covered thyself with anger and pursued us. Thou hast slain and hast not spared.
Yeah, I mean
okay,
so you have wrapped yourself with anger and pursued us, killing without pity. This fits in with the theology just fine. Like, this is God's doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're confessing their guilt for whatever punishment they get. They're saying we rebelled.
Yeah.
Thou hast covered thyself with a cloud so that no prayer can pass through.
Okay.
Prayers can't go through clouds. Confirm.
Canon.
So the overcast of today, God's not going to hear anything I say because the clouds block.
There's a cloud in the way, Landon. How could he possibly hear that?
Yeah.
There's a whole object blocking your
That's way
voice.
too solid and difficult to go through. Come on.
This is great. This is the best part of the show.
So anyway,
Please remember, this is not meant to be literal. To anyone thinking that was an actual criticism.
Every part of it must be true. Mere off-scoring and the refuse of thou hast made us in the midst of the peoples. All our enemies have opened their mouths against us.
Probably in the same kind of
Panic and-
scoffing manner, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So, yes. Verse 47, panic and pitfall have befallen us, devastation and destruction. My eyes run down with streams of water because the destruction of the daughter of my people.
Yeah, so the Hebrew has similar wordplay. Panic and pitfall. Yeah, Alter translates terror and trap. The wordplay in Hebrew is pachad wa fachat. And shearing and shattering is what he uses right afterwards. And the Hebrew alliteration is hashet we hashever.
So, verse 49, my eyes pour down unceasingly without stopping until the Lord looks down and sees from heaven. That's, of course, there's clouds up in the sky, in which case the Lord didn't notice because your prayers got bounced off of the water vapor, I guess. Which is why I guess the godly should be in deserts because there's fewer clouds.
Yeah.
Allegedly. And therefore, the wicked go into the places where it's nice and rainy. Definitely places like Hawaii you should stay away from because gods. Unless, of course, in Hawaii, the gods are actually like Pele. Madam Pele is a god of fire in the ground. So you don't have. If you have terrestrial gods, then you have fewer. Unless it's fog.
Yeah.
And Tule fog, you're just right out. I mean, Tule fog, you're cut off from God, and you're.
So England is just a no-go.
Yeah, of course, because the London fog is a curse for the wicked. Okay.
That movie, The Mist, right? That was God abandoning humanity.
Must have been. I didn't watch it, but it must have
I don't even
been.
know what that is, but that's cool if you think about it.
Okay, so verse 51. My eyes bring pain to my soul because all of the daughters of my city. My enemies without cause hunted me down like a bird. They have silenced me in the pit and have placed a stone on me. Waters flowed over my head, and I say, I am cut off.
So being put in a pit, this is the imagery of flinging someone into a pit and then stoning them to death.
Classic.
Yes. Delightful imagery here. So they have silenced me in a place a stone upon me. In verse 54, waters have flowed over my head, and I said, I am cut off. I called on thy name, O Lord, out of the lowest pit. Thou hast heard my voice. Do not hide thine ear from my prayer or for relief, or from cry for help. From my cry, do not hide thine ear from my prayer for relief, from my cry for help. Plus, of course, there's water vapor there, in which case you're SOL. Thou dost draw near when I call upon thee. Thou didst say, do not fear. Well, because I guess there's a lot of stuff that they fear, but oh Lord, thou dost plead my soul's cause. Thou hast redeemed my life. O Lord, thou hast seen my oppression. Judge my case. Thou hast seen all their vengeance, all their schemes against me. Thou hast heard their approach, O Lord, and all their schemes against me.
So it's unclear whether this verbatim repetition of the last half of the previous line is meant for the expressive effect, or whether a scribe has inadvertently duplicated the phrase where different words stood in the original text.
Yeah,
There is a chance of that.
So in verse 60, again, I'll go and say, thou hast seen all their vengeance, all their schemes are against me. Thou hast heard their approach, O Lord, all their schemes are against me. So maybe there was something else that was in the first 31 and got duplicated and got lost. The word of the Lord got lost. 62. The lips of my assailants and their worshiping are against me all day long. Look on their sitting, their rising. I am their mocking song.
Yeah, so of course we are still talking about Israel here, just as the community in general, and I would say that he's pointing out like he's lamenting, right? So he's saying I have been treated horribly, and this is his mindset seems to suggest here that well, I mean, it would be, obvious either way, I think. But the mindset, the theology that's being portrayed is more like, I haven't fully been punished for these sins. I'm going to be punished a little bit more, but eventually, God's like, I'll help you out. You got to get a little bit more punishment out of that one. It's like just like jail time, except different.
Well, here they say, look on their sitting and their rising. And this follows a Hebrew idiom, which has the general sense of all of their sundry activities. So literally at all times, they are talking shit about Israel, basically.
Right.
By the way, there's a question before I go on to verse 64 about the picture in the background.
Oh, yeah. It's just a picture I pulled off of Google about, it's just Jerusalem. It's just Jerusalem. Yeah, that's it.
I think some of the Lamentations have been about Jerusalem or about the fall of Jerusalem, that sort of thing.
It's hard to get a background for concepts like Lamentations.
Yeah.
So
could have got that crying.
Go Jerusalem.
Again.
We had the crying one, but that was when we were reading 9 chapters of genealogies.
Yeah, that was because we were sad.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that was a really good humdinger of a show. But for those that haven't seen, what they do is they sort of seek an image which is either a commentary on the chapter that's going to be written or has some vague connection with it. And sometimes they have to stretch more. But I could see Lamentations. I mean, there's only so much crying imagery you can have in the background.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are at verse 64.
Yeah.
Thou wilt recompense them, O Lord, according to the work of their hands. Thou wilt give them hardness of the heart. Thy curse will be on them. Thou wilt pursue them in anger and destroy them from under the heavens of the Lord.
Wow, there is a lot of textual stuff on this. I don't know if Alter has anything.
Please go ahead.
Alter says nothing.
Wow, that sucks. So there is some alternative readings here. So for you will repay them, there's also
he does say, let me read out this last section because it is a little different.
Okay.
Starting with 64. Pay them back their deserts, O Lord, according to their own acts. Give them anguish of the heart, your curse upon them. Pursue in wrath and destroy them from beneath the heavens of the Lord.
Okay, so here's the translation that I have from the English Standard Version. So so some of these are listed as commands. So instead of you'll repay them, it's just repay them. And instead of you will give them, it's just give them. And then let's see, your curse will be is place your curse. So, okay, so I guess a lot of these issues of a lot of the notes are just, they're turning into commands. It's either they're commands or not, or just like a future tense kind of thing.
Which is, this is commands in Alter's translation. In the KJV, Let's see what they did.
Oh yeah, let's see what the King James is up to.
Oh, we missed a behold in 63.
Yeah, there was a behold in my translation, but it's like whatever.
Behold,
Yeah, behold, another behold. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is also different.
How different?
Starting at 64.
Okay.
Render unto them a recompense, O Lord,
Okay.
according to the work of their hands. Give them sorrow of the heart, thy curse unto them. Persecute and destroy them in anger from under the heavens of the Lord.
That's not that different.
Oh, Nightbot showed you.
Yeah, the altar says, pay them back their deserts. This says, render unto them a recompense.
Yeah, repay them.
Oh, that's the meaning.
Yeah.
But the phraseology.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but
So my friend who refers to himself as an ultra reform Jew said that even to this day he was able to recite in Hebrew the chapter as I was reading along. He laments that he was made to memorize that, and it still is sick with him today. So.
Oh man, whoever you are,
we're
sorry.
My condolences to my good friend for having to memorize.
Our condolences.
That thing.
that is unfortunate for you.
All right. Now
Do you hear something?
I hear something at the end of this chapter.
That's so
Oh,
strange.
so weird. Oh no.
Behold, I am your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and I want to let all you heathens and sinners know that I support this wonderful episode of Atheist Sunday School. Lawrence and Reuben try their very best to bring you the true glory of the Bible, and they need your help. They have provided links to their Patreon page and other social media just for you. Once again, my name is Jesus Christ, and this is Milwaukee Atheists. The Lord is with them. God bless.
Oh my God, Jesus, He is risen, and
Everyone else is gone.
Everyone else is gone.
Reuben is gone. It is only Lawrence.
Jesus shows up, decides to take away Reuben and Landon, and I'm just stuck here on this godforsaken planet.
And Stream.
This place sucks.
Yeah, everybody else gets magical knowledge, but you have a good bladder.
Just nothing.
Well, here we are back again.
Oh.
Because helium, those are alpha particles with 2 electrons, continue to rise in our atmosphere due to the buoyancy of helium gas. So all praise to helium.
He is risen. So some commentary on chapter 4 poem 4 before we hop into the reading. Hopefully Reuben gets back at some point. I don't know when Jesus wants to drop him off. I know it's a big day for you, Jesus. Erdman's commentary notes, it cannot be accidental that in this 4th poem, the tone reverts to that of the first 2. In a remarkable revision from chapter 3, there is no hope here, no expectation of God's deliverance, but simply a report of the catastrophe. The poet speaks with pathos, indeed, but with a certain distance from the events. Only in 4:17 through 20 does the speaker even identify himself with the people of the city. The point must be that even the most blessed assurance, such as stood at the central point of the book, 3:22 through 33, can be put out of mind by the insistent realities confronting the poet and people. All that remains of the confident spirit of chapter 3 is the conviction that Jerusalem's enemies, such as the Edomites, who are today gloating over its downfall, will find the cup of God's anger passing to them too.
Wow.
Oh my God!
I have returned.
Oh, he scared me. How is Jesus? How's his big day?
Well, it's he's not having a good time, I'll tell you that.
Oh man, that sucks.
Oh man. You ever listen
but, I mean,
to?
I guess, and I assume that that Jesus should be having a party, I guess, because he's at least the zombie version of him has.
Yeah.
Well, you'd think you'd have some sort of celebration, but you know what? There are a lot of prayers I hear today, so people are
But
annoying
if
him.
it's overcast, then
Oh,
there's
right.
less.
Depends on where you are.
Yeah.
But
Depending on your
I believe, on the other hand, that there are Christians known as Orthodox who seem to have trouble with the calendar and have Easter as on a different week.
Well, hold on. That's actually a Council of Nicaea thing. So at the Council of Nicaea, they wanted to set a date for Easter because they knew that they were off sync. They knew that they were interpreting the passages differently, so they knew that they were a little bit off from each other. Now, what they also didn't realize is that they were using different calendars. So the Council of Nicaea did literally nothing to fix that issue. Instead, Athanasius had to continuously send festal letters to tell people when the festivities were going to be.
Mm.
And to this day, the Orthodox Catholic Church really insists, except for those that are the new calendar folks, insist that they have their own calendar because they don't recognize things like Pope Gregory and all that sort of stuff.
Exactly.
And even like the Russian Orthodox Church still has a calendar and different dates and so forth. So
Yeah.
Go figure.
Saints and different saints.
Even though I would think, given the algorithm for determining when Passover is pretty, to me, straightforward, but people seem to mess it up.
Yeah, I mean, it's obnoxious to translate the Hebrew calendar to the
I'm sure.
modern.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
All right,
anyways, we're in chapter 4 now.
Yeah.
How is the gold become dim? How is the most fine gold changed? The stones of the sanctuary are poured out in the top of every street.
So obviously, like, how can the
gold
best?
changing?
Yeah, it's
Is that
obvious.
like a reverse alchemy?
Yeah.
How can the best of the best become the worst?
Yeah.
You wondered how we got so many rocks and we don't have so much gold. It was this wasteful
By the way, the way
gold
you
to
do
rocks.
that, yes, you take gold, you bombard it with, like, say, neutrons, because there's only one stable isotope of gold. It becomes radioactive, and then transmutes into another element. So it's actually, and in fact, I will point out, I have done this with some of the ash that came out of the Mount St. Helens eruption in 1980 was put into the Reed nuclear reactor, and the neutron activations took some of the gold that was in that ash and turned it into non-gold. So I've done it with a countable number of atoms. And you say, well, how do you know that? Because the gamma rays come from that spot, show that the decay came from radioactive gold decaying into something that wasn't gold.
Wow, you're an ancient Jewish alchemist.
All right. The precious sons of Zion comparable to fine gold. How are they esteemed as earthen pitchers, the works of the hands of the potter? Even the sea monsters draw out the breast. They give suck to their young ones. The daughter of my people has become cruel like the ostriches in the wilderness. I am not sure that sea monsters have mammary glands.
Mine says even the jackals offer
Yeah,
breast.
even jackals.
Wow. So instead of dragons, it has sea monsters now. The KJV is awesome.
But how to get sea monsters from or jackals? I mean, what does the actual Hebrew say? Is it actually
It's a jackal? It's a jackal. Oh my god.
It's a jackal.
It's always a jackal.
monsters? All the same.
Anything that's mystical, it wasn't dragons.
It was a
It
jackal.
wasn't sea monsters. It's a jackal. It's always a jackal.
What does the Hebrew say for that verse 3?
I don't know. The commentary is, it says even jackals offer the breast, suckle their own cub, but it does not note the jackal specifically.
Usually, this has been a reference to jackals.
Yeah.
When the KJV is like, dragons,
yeah.
or sea monsters.
It's been great.
If you ever, I've seen jackals, and it's easy to note that they're not a sea monster. The big clue that has, because I've seen jackals a number of times, is that they're not in the sea. They're on the land.
Whoa!
That's crazy, Landon. You're
Blowing
crazy,
my
man.
mind here.
Dead giveaways that we all miss. Thank you, Landon.
Okay, the tongue of the suckling child cleaveth to the roof of his mouth for thirst. The young children ask bread, and no man breaketh it unto them.
Oh, can I talk about ostriches for a second? Though?
Yes, talk about
Yeah, so
ostriches.
my people's daughter is now ruthless as ostriches in the desert. There appears to have been a folk tradition about the cruelty or indifference of ostriches to their young. And of course, we can compare to Job, because we remember that part from Job. Zion is ruthless towards her young because she can do nothing to save them from starving to death. Also, man, I just love that ostriches are just portrayed in the Bible as total assholes.
Yeah.
It's pretty spot on.
Actually, ostriches in the wild do a pretty good job of doing the nest sort of thing. I mean, they're kind of obvious to see, although they try to make their nest in spots that are kind of a little bit down, so they're not as obvious. But it's like a giant Volkswagen bus sitting in a little bit of a dip, holding not to be obvious. Not ostriches are obvious, but things like cheetahs go and look around and see, oh, there's food on legs.
Yeah.
But they're sitting there to do what? They're sitting out in the open on the eggs in order to try to make more ostriches. So I don't think that they're necessarily this jerks that
They teach their kids to be tough by beating them up, though. So they're not the greatest. They don't look like nice parents, but maybe they're teaching them survival skills. I don't know.
Let's not translate that to humans.
No, don't beat your kids.
Okay. They that did feed delicately are desolate in the streets. They that were brought up in scarlet embrace dunghills. For the punishment of the iniquity of the daughter of my people is greater than the punishment of the sin of Sodom.
Wow.
That was overthrown in a moment, and no hand stayed on her.
Sodom was devastated by fire and brimstone rained down by God, not by an enemy. Oh, okay. I see.
Yes.
And by the way, on verse 5, it says, those reared in purple embraced ash pits. And you had an odd, how did the KJV do it?
They that were brought up in scarlet embrace dunghills.
Either way, it's, very royal imagery. Very high class imagery.
Dunghills?
Scarlet and purple.
Yeah.
You know how when you need to go to the bathroom, you walk up to the dunghill?
Refuse heaps is what Altar has.
Ugh.
Although dunghills is pretty good.
And so the sin of Sodom, of being naughty, I guess, is...
I guess. Yeah. Her Nazarites were purer than snow. They were whiter than milk. They were more ruddy in body than rubies. Their polishing was of sapphire.
That's really weird. Yours says Nazarites.
Yes.
I remember in Exodus there was the Nazarite Vow. Now I don't remember too much about the Nazarites.
Well, they were like these kind of mystics, right?
Were they?
They're like
I don't remember.
holy men.
Okay, well the translation that Altar has is her elite were purer than snow. They were whiter than milk.
In mine, it says her consecrated ones, but it says the commentary that the consecrated could be replaced with Nazarites.
Well, now we're turning the imagery back around. It says, their visage is blacker than a coal.
No.
They are not known in the streets. Their skin cleaveth to their bones. It is withered. It has become like a stick.
So it's they
Like
may
wood.
look great, but they got nothing going for them.
Well, no, it said they were.
Oh, they were. Yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
they were great, but now they have nothing going for them.
Yeah. They that be slain with the sword are better than they that be slain with hunger. For these pine away, stricken through want of the fruits of the field. The hands of the pitiful woman have...
So I do want to just point something out here. So, better the slain of the sword than the slain by famine, for those run through ooze blood more than the crop of the field. The phrase more than the crop of the field has puzzled interpreters. The understanding reflected in this translation is that those must refer to the slain by the sword, run through by the sword, their bodies ooze blood more abundantly than the crop of the field. Yeah, more abundantly than the crop of the field runs with sap. Alternatively, more than the crop of the field flourishes. The blood flooding from their bodies reflects the swiftness of their death, a fate preferable to the fate of those who die slowly from famine.
All right. The hands of the pitiful woman have sodden their own children. They were their meat in the destruction of the daughter of my people. Returning to cannibalistic imagery.
Because mine in verse 10 says the hands of compassionate women.
Oh.
I also have hands of compassionate women.
The KJV authors think that compassion is pitiful.
Well, they take pity on things.
The Lord hath accomplished his
It's like
fury.
when we say like awesome and awful.
You're right.
Yeah.
The Lord hath accomplished his fury. He hath poured out his fierce anger, and hath kindled a fire in Zion, and it hath devoured the foundations thereof. The kings of the earth and all the inhabitants of the world would not have believed that the adversary and the enemy should have entered into the gates of Jerusalem. For
hence the picture behind us of that city. So
The gates of Jerusalem. Somewhere on this.
With some
Probably
fog.
in the middle.
Did you see the mist over there? People can't
Around.
reach God.
Oh,
that.
man, you're right. There is mist. They can't reach God. Oh, no.
oh no,
and the clouds up there, God's isn't hearing those prayers.
Man.
all powerful except in the presence of vapor.
Lots of vapor. Not just some vapor. Lots of vapor.
Wow, too much for him. For the sins of her prophets and iniquities of her priests that have shed the blood of the just in the midst of her, they have wandered as blind men in the streets. They have polluted themselves with blood, so that men could not touch their garments. They cried unto them, Depart ye, it is unclean, depart, depart, touch not. When they fled away and wandered, they said among the heathen, they shall no more sojourn there. The anger of...
Can you imagine, you're injured and the ambulance coming up to try to help you, and you say, Depart unclean, because you're supposed to?
Yeah, because unclean.
Yeah. The book says so. The anger of the Lord hath divided them. He will no more regard them. They respected not the persons of the priests. They favored not the elders. As for us, our eyes as yet failed for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us. They hunt our steps, that we cannot go in our streets. Our end is near. Our days are fulfilled, for our end is come. Our persecutors are swifter than eagles of the heaven. They pursued us upon the mountains. They laid wait for us in the wilderness. The breath of our nostrils, the anointed of the Lord, was taken in their pits, of whom we said, Under his shadow we shall live among the heathen.
So, our very life breath, the Lord's anointed, was captured in their traps. So there's quite a good bit of commentary on this verse, of whom he said, in his shade we shall live among the nations. The literal sense of the Hebrew, our very life breath, is the breath of our nostrils. This is an idealizing epithet for the Davidic king, as though the life, the living and breathing of the nation were dependent on this leader. So yeah, identifying their life breath with the king itself, was captured in their traps. In fact, King Zedekiah, attempting to flee the city, was caught by the Babylonians, blinded after being forced to witness the execution of his sons, and afterwards taken in exile to Babylonia. And then in his shade, as often in biblical usage, shade means protection.
Great.
There's the commentary there.
Well, thank you for that commentary there. Their commentary. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee.
Abraham was from Uz, right?
Yeah, was that Uz?
Wasn't it?
Uz?
Yeah, I think that was...
Is it Uz or Uz?
Well, I don't know. I think it was maybe Uz. Maybe it was Uz. I don't know. But either way...
Very familiar name.
Yeah.
Thou shalt be drunken and shall make thyself naked. The punishment of thine iniquity...
Oh, sorry. It was Job.
Job
so
was
where
from
this
Uz.
region in which Job is said to live.
Yeah.
Lamenting.
That's
region.
right. I remember Job.
No,
That's
Abraham's
right.
from somewhere else.
Yeah.
The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins. And that is the end of chapter 4.
And wow, we still got one more chapter left.
Yeah.
This is quite the book.
Yeah, quite the lamentable collection of poetry and whatnot. But do if you could give this little soiree a thumbs up.
Absolutely.
It helps in the algorithm.
Yeah, and click the share button to share it on your social medias.
Because that helps with the algorithm.
And $.
And subscribe as well, because subscribing is free. And if you click the notification bell, you'll be alerted every time new content comes up. And these folks are prolific in their content production, their scholarship, and their other good stuff. So
Now, see, what I would say helps the most is comments. So if people are leaving comments and talking, that really drives engagement up a lot.
Yeah. So this is the last poem in Lamentations.
Great.
The final
Excited.
poem differs from the others in being addressed to God in the name of the people. It's cast in the form of one of the psalms of appeals of the community, e.g. Psalms 44 or 60. But unlike the examples in the book of Psalms, this one has comparatively little appeal to God and comparatively much descriptions of the disaster. So in that respect, it resembles the other poems in the book.
Well, there was part of chapter 3 that was addressed to God, like all the
part of that
vocatives
as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But in my case, the above chapter titles went from in chapter 4, miseries of the captivity, into prayer for mercy.
All right. Well, let's see what God does. We're not going to find out here, but let's see what the dude wants God to do. All right, chapter 5. Remember, O Lord, what has befallen us. Look and see our disgrace.
Oh, also, it's not an acrostic.
Hey, is
Right,
that a
right.
Oh, you
In
don't know
my
what
case,
that's a
our
behold.
reproach.
Yeah, it's so this
Reuben,
one.
It's a recall.
Is it a behold as
No,
well?
it's not a behold.
Instead of
It's
look?
not a behold.
Oh.
It's yeah, this is the one that's like all sorts of jumbled up. But it still has the 22 verses.
Mhm.
Our inheritance has been turned over to strangers, our homes to foreigners. We have become orphans, fatherless. Our mothers are like widows. We must pay for the water we drink. The wood we get must be bought. Oh boy.
Yeah, so the bare necessities of life, water to drink and firewood for warmth during the winter months, had to be paid for by the distressed Judahites. Wow, they would really hate the U.S.
They would hate the U.S. They would hate the modern world. That's just the thing that we do.
Yeah. Everybody does that
That's
now.
progress.
You gotta pay for those necessities.
Yeah.
What a country. Our pursuers are at our necks. We are weary. We are given no rest. We have given the hand to Egypt and to Assyria to get bread enough.
So
So in that case, does this also help understand the dating of this thing? Is more talk about the exile? 'Cause
Well,
didn't some of them
these are
decide to go to Egypt and they were told don't do it and they did it anyway.
well, yes, there is definitely one for Egypt, but this doesn't tell us much about dating.
so it does say here about Assyria that by the era of destruction, 586 BCE, Assyria was no longer in the historical picture.
Well, right, but the thing is, it's not. These are traditional enemies of Israel. So I would say that this language is more. I mean, it looks like they're asking for help, right, from these places.
Yeah.
So
They've had to turn to their enemies for crumbs.
Right. So in the case of Egypt, that was one of the big sins, right, in Isaiah, is that they turned to Egypt for help.
And Jeremiah.
Right. So it's in Assyria as well. It must have done that at some point too. So yeah,
So
I think
suggests that a dating it's not dating when Assyria was a country, but from the tradition that they were actually forced to go after the period of time where they're forced to. Some were forced to go or compelled to go to Egypt for help or Assyria for help.
yeah, these kinds of things help give us like an earliest possible date.
Yeah, and given what's happened in verse 7, it is again referring to those people back in history that did this, because you'll see in verse 7.
Yeah. Our fathers sinned and are no more, and we bear their iniquities.
See, so it's saying that their fathers are the ones that did the naughty thing of turning to Egypt or turning to Assyria for help rather than for God. But I would say, given what's happening, what God has been doing to them, can you blame them?
Right.
Like God's mercy is very nice or consistent.
Slaves rule over us. There is none to deliver us from their hand. We get our bread at the peril of our lives because of the sword in the wilderness.
The desert sword. This is probably a reference to the sundry peoples to the east of the Jordan who preyed on the fleeing refugees from Judah as they struggled to survive.
Oh, boy. Our skin is hot as an oven with the burning heat of famine. Women are raped in Zion, young women in the towns of Judah. Princes are hung up by their hands. No respect is shown to the elders. Young men are compelled to grind at the mill, and boys stagger under loads of wood. The old men have left the city gate, the young men their music.
So the gates were where the elders sat to conduct the courts of justice.
So they have left, and then the young men have left their music.
No longer listening to Spotify or something that they have to leave.
They're no longer playing in the holy choir, I suppose, and the holy.
Yeah, and I imagine maybe Spotify is too modern. They probably say they've abandoned their iPods.
Yes, they have abandoned their iPods. Remember iPods?
Yep. They still have their Walkman, though.
Yeah, Walkman. Yeah, I remember I had a little MP3 player.
So you had like an off-brand like Zune type thing.
No, it wasn't even Zune. It was really tiny. It was like
I remember how small it was.
Yeah, and it's just horrible. Yeah. It held like 5 songs.
It did. It did.
Brilliant.
Continuing on here, the joy of our hearts has ceased. Our dancing has been turned to mourning. The crown has fallen from our head. Woe to us, for we have sinned. For this our heart has become sick. For these things our eyes have grown dim. For Mount Zion, which lies desolate, jackals prowl over it. Does yours say dragons
Well,
or sea
Mine says
monsters?
foxes.
I don't
Or-
have.
Mine says foxes.
Foxes. Okay.
I don't have the KJV open. What verse is that?
But this is verse 18.
Yes.
Mine says foxes prowl in it.
The KJV says foxes, and Alter
Wow.
says foxes.
That
It's
is-
foxes.
the KJV is incredibly
Fox is
inconsistent.
fox.
And mine and the American Standard Age of Hold Company stuff says foxes as well. So and I guess the Hebrew probably is foxes as well. But so why do they say jackals?
I don't know.
You're trying to say?
Yep. Don't know why. It just does.
Because if it's a jackal, it's a jackal.
It's a jackal. All animals are jackals.
Wouldn't it be great if it said that dragons go about in the KJV?
That'd be pretty cool. But you, O Lord, reign forever. Your throne endures to all generations. Why do you forget us forever? Why do you forsake us for so many days? Restore us to yourself, O Lord, that we may be restored.
So-
Renew our days as of old, unless you have utterly rejected us and you remain exceedingly angry with us.
So the
Which is
phrase,
probably the case.
the verse 21 is bring us back to you, O Lord, that we may that we come back, renew our days as of old. The entire verse in 21 was later adopted for the traditional Jewish liturgy. And on this last verse, Alter says, logically, this verse is connected with the preceding one. We now desperately need you to bring us back to you, for in the present terrible moment, we're clearly the object of your fury. Jewish tradition, however, reflects a sense that this is too grim a note on which to end the book. So when Lamentations is publicly chanted on the fast of the 9th of Av, verse 21, bring us back to you, is repeated to conclude the reading.
Because it's too sad without it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So
Yeah, it's too sad for Judaism. I don't know. I don't understand.
yeah, that's just it doesn't make any sense.
But either way, that is that's the end. That is the end.
That is Lamentations.
We are done with Lamentations.
The whole thing. So,
The whole thing.
final thoughts on Lamentations.
I've heard better laments, but you know what? There's some gems in there.
Yeah, they're pretty
I mean, the
sad
whole-
about, you know,
The whole
complete
sea
destruction.
monster, jackal,
Right, jackals,
lamb
of course.
thing.
We got our original
And
character.
of course, the very important point, which is the imperviation of prayer to God through water vapor, right? That's
That was a good one.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point I think is like, you know, he's not listening anymore, but he's not. Oh, because right, because they had the whole like marriage thing earlier. So now they've gotten a divorce. So now they live apart. Got it.
There you go.
Got the metaphor.
wow.
So we'll soon be going into Ezekiel next week, and Ezekiel's 48 chapters long. Probably we'll do it in 16 weeks, maybe 15 if we add an extra chapter.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how long the chapters are, and we'll decide.
Yeah. But once we're done with Ezekiel,
We're in Daniel, I think.
we're going to be in Daniel, and then it just keeps getting shorter.
Right. It does get really, really short into the
And
minor
they're trying
prophets.
to like wrap up the Old Testament, which at the time the Old Testament was made was the New Testament.
Yeah.
It was just the Testament. Yeah, lots of minor prophets coming up soon. I am picking up a commentary or commentaries that cover multiple of them.
And you ordered Judith.
Yeah.
No, I got to do that.
You got to do that
Got to order Judith.
because on
And
Friday
by the way, minor
Apocryphal podcast.
prophets, we're not talking about prophets that are young
No.
or prophets that are into the mining and digging in the ground. We're talking about prophets that aren't as cool as the big ones.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not the big prophets. They're no Jeremiah. They're no Ezekiel.
Yeah, but
They're
you
just
get like
kids.
Jonah.
They're just freaking kids.
Well,
Jonah, Obadiah, Amos, Hosea, and those Amos and Hosea are probably like the older ones. They're probably the oldest books in the Bible.
yeah. So, Landon, why don't you share with our audience some of your current projects? Let them know what you're up to.
Well, I have a YouTube channel. I've been restored to things by not personally, but there's a branded channel called Our Favorite Universe, and right now there are placeholder videos there to hold it because I was told that I needed to have that. But I promise you, there actually are three. There are 3 episodes that have been recorded, and they're in the pipeline of processing. My producer is in the process of processing them. So I would expect that fairly soon they'll be released. And there's another 2 that are in development. So you will see this channel exploring our favorite universe, right from the point of view of math, astronomy, physics, and other cool things. So please consider subscribing to Our Favorite Universe. It's free, and click that notification bell after you, of course, subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell.
Yeah.
And you got to listen to Landon. I mean, if you don't listen to Landon, what are you even doing with your life?
So, if you want to support us here at Milwaukee Atheists, you can check out our Amazon wish list. It's full of books. We can add them to the table.
Lots of books.
Read more for you. It really is for you.
It is, because all the books going right back into your brain.
Yep.
If you want some scripts or to have access to some books or get on that spinny wheelie or perhaps even be on our after show, which is happening right after this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
maybe
the after shows happen after shows.
but it's not a show that anyone else can,
you
can
know,
watch.
the hangout.
It's a
session.
hangout. We're having a hangout.
It's a hangout, and we discuss all kinds of things. Usually not related to the Bible, but just, I mean, it's eclectic smorgasbord, a virtual salad of ideas, and that's why you should become a patron at what level?
For the hangout, it would be at the $20 level, but you also get some other stuff when aside from all the stuff below it. You also get free tickets to any events we would hold in the future. Of course, Rona kind of ruined that, any potential of that happening at all.
Yep.
So yeah,
But for $50 a month, you can be on the show like Landon is.
yeah, you could be like Landon.
Yeah. In
You get
fact,
to read interesting stuff and inject cool things like
You
right
get-
for there because yes.
You get to pay us to read.
Yes, this is the thing, because instead of having to go to Sunday school and be forced to sit around and read sections of the Bible, you get to
sit around at
pay for
Sunday
the
school.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe we should rethink that goal, that patron level.
or maybe we shouldn't. Anyways, we also have Teespring, lots of wacky and fun T-shirts, and if you want to support us without spending money, you can follow us Facebook and Twitter. Links in the description.
Absolutely
Right.
free to follow us on there.
Yeah.
No cost to you at all. In fact, all the links to everything is in the description.
So, without further ado, this has been nearly 2.5 hours.
Yeah, but
of
you know what?
Lamentations.
I feel that.
Yeah. So, Friday, we're Wisdom of Solomon. We're finishing it up.
Yep.
So,
We will see you on Friday.